just come into the tech cafe. It's as easy as that. Come
and
in.
That's right here.
Yeah, it's right here. Come in, see the team, come and say hello. Tell us about you. Tell us about your aspirations, your journey, where are you heading, and we'll hook you in straight away.
Marissa, thank you for being here. Welcome to Startup Weekend. It's Sunday and it's around 11:42 a.m.
Yes.
What's happening right now?
Well, the energy is really, people are into it. The concentration's going on in the room as I look around here. Everybody's in the devil of the detail of getting their pitches finalised. They've just gone through the second round of pitch critique and feedback. So they've now got some gaps to fill. They're working through those gaps as a team, hopefully, and getting ready for their third and final pitch before they meet the judges tonight.
Right, so it's pretty much the final leg of the journey for them.
Absolutely, the final leg of the journey. And this is where we see that the difference from the first day. We were on a real high in the first day.
Yeah.
Energy was really high. We were buzzing, we knew the ideas and the future was ahead of us. We're now on day 3. We've had some market validation. We've probably pivoted a few times, our idea, and now we're actually pointing down the end of the day and just wanting to get the job done and excite the judges.
Cool, awesome. So, Marissa, tell us about yourself and where you're from.
Sure. I like to call myself a Kiwi Geordie girl. So I'm actually Kiwi born and bred. I lived here till I was 12 and then moved over to the UK, moved to Newcastle. So that brings in the Geordie. That's the affectionate term that we call people from Newcastle.
Right, okay.
And I've been there for probably around 30 years, been backwards and forwards. I started my career there. I've primarily been working in local government, economic development agencies, and growing tech communities, bringing forward innovation centres, emerging technology centres, where we help businesses in the digital industry understand how they can embed new emerging technologies into their business for the betterment of their customers, so they can give a better product, but also so they can expand into new markets themselves. And now returned back to New Zealand in 2017 with my family, my young son, who I realised I wanted him to grow up as a Kiwi boy.
Oh.
And that was the driver. And now have the huge honour of heading up Grid Auckland, this wonderful space that we've got here down in the heart of Wynyard Quarter in Auckland.
Very cool. So you mentioned growing tech communities and innovation centres. What does that look like? Like what is that? Is that a physical space? Is that a network of some kind? Well, what is? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's actually both.
Okay.
So there's generally 3 conditions of success, which is a really sort of economic development term that we use, but basically it's about the place. You've got to have the space that people want to come to, want to make their home, and generally cluster around. It's about the community more though. This is bringing the community together, growing that community, connecting them to other communities that are complementary to theirs as well. So that there's business development, there's skills transfer across the piece, and they can all grow as a result. But then it's about the services. So actually, what do we do to help them grow? How do we make a difference on their journey? What can we do to support them so that ultimately they grow? From an economic development perspective, we want them to create jobs. We want these businesses to grow. We want the next Googles. So it's all about supporting them in their infancy so that they can grow in the best way possible, have longevity and stability.
Right, gotcha. And so for you, what does that look like for you from like a day-to-day or week-to-week basis? Who do you interact with and what do you do with them?
So I interact with different government organisations. So we'll work together to partner on programs that we can bring forward. So I might be working with New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, and we might be looking at export markets that are right for the community here, and we'll be educating them. We'll be looking at different packages available around in other parts of the world. So for example, we had Startup Chile over just last week, talking to us about them being the sort of in top 10 global accelerators in the world and the support they can provide to New Zealanders interested in expanding into the Latin American market. So we might work with those types of organisations, and then we'll be working very closely with the corporate businesses that we have here, helping them to look at opportunities for how they might engage with our very early stage startups, so that ecosystem is giving to each other all the time, and we're really helping people come through their journey.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay, so tell me about what kind of businesses do you serve? Like what are the types of businesses that you see?
Yeah, we have really diverse mix here.
Yeah.
So Grid Auckland is an innovation campus, that's what we call ourselves. That means we've got 3 different buildings. We've got the Lysart building that we're in today and this weekend for Startup Weekend. That is what we call our Startup Hub. In the Lysart building, we have very early stage startups that we provide space for in our tech cafe. This is free of charge space. This is get out of your home, just come and meet other people and connect, validate your ideas. We have community coordinators who can connect you, who can help you move through. We also, in the Lysart building, have hot desking space and more permanent desk space, and we're always supporting with a full team here who can help people through their journey. Moving through to the other buildings, we have Madden Street. This is for our businesses that are probably scaling more. So they're on the next part of the journey. They want more of a corporate feel. They're bringing in large buyers and investors, and they have that credibility to really take those big sales through, and more of that corporate feel. So we might have in there Google. We've got some homegrown agencies like Anthem. We've also got people like Metia Interactive who are developing really cool games that are not just entertainment games, but really helping young teenagers with depression and how to deal with their mental well-being. And then in Mason Brothers, our 3rd building, that's where we have Amazon Web Services and Wynyard Edge Alliance. So we're doing some really cool stuff about developing Auckland to get ready for big events like America's Cup.
Gotcha. No, that's cool. And so, touching on the fact that you're serving early stage startups as well. That's what this weekend is all about, isn't it? It's for that early stage startup. It's for individuals to come in and even inform those startups that don't exist yet. So, what's your experience like with these hackathons?
I mean, this is my first startup weekend experience, and I'm absolutely blown away. It's just been so insightful because I work with startups every day and we have them coming through, but to see it from this perspective, as you say, individuals coming together who don't know each other, just are in the spirit of wanting to develop a really great business idea that, who knows, might have that scope to go further. It's just really, really inspiring. People have given up their weekend to come here, to connect, to put their strengths to a team, and just really, really take a business idea forward. I have been genuinely impressed. I've also had my eyes open to see sort of really accelerated that journey that businesses go through, that I see more from a longer perspective. Because of the support we provide, businesses can do this for a longer period. We're not an accelerator program here. We're not forcing people through Grid Auckland in 16 weeks. We actually support them on a more sustainable journey. So to see it in I guess, sped up in this, environment, and see those real highs and lows and energy drops has just been really interesting.
Right. So it's interesting. So it really is like a micro version of what a real business might go through. So. Absolutely. I'm guessing you've worked with quite a lot of startups over that longer kind of stretch. How, what have you seen over that period of time, like again and again? If I were to come to you and say, hey, I'm about to do a startup and I'm in it for the long haul, what are some tips that you can give me? What are some, I guess, things that I should be doing and thinking about?
I think this journey, everybody goes through the same peaks and troughs. So everybody starts in that high. I've got this great idea. My business is going to just transform people's lives and make a difference. It's taking that idea. It's the market validation piece, your competitor research as well. which is a bit that really we want people to focus on. Quite often we have people define the problem and then head straight into solutionizing. They're thinking about the product, and we really want them to think about that market validation and defining who is the customer, who is this problem affecting, because that can really help make the difference on what that solution might look like. And so we really want them to hold back from just jumping in, boots and all that, this is the solution and I know the answer already, to just spend that longer time on the market validation. And really take the time on that. And then once they've done that, they're working through the solution, actually that next stage, but how am I going to fund this? Am I getting to minimum viable product and seeking investment at that early stage, but I'm giving equity away, which actually at a later stage, when I am scalable, further investors are going to be not so interested, because quite often you're limiting your pool of investors because they don't want to then invest in a business that's already given away equity. They typically want to take 30 to 40% of your business. If you've already given away up to 20%, actually that's not leaving a lot left. And you as the business owner, the founder, what are you leaving for yourself? What's the slice of the cake you've left for yourself at the end? So how we, at Grid Auckland, really try and help them not bootstrap their way through, but actually try and take away as far as we can through the options that we have here and the support we can provide, and you're with a like-minded community of being through those experiences that can share them with you, help you move on from when you're stuck, or move you on through the pitfalls of your journey, so that you don't always necessarily make the same mistakes as somebody else, and then hopefully you'll get to that great scalable position and investor ready.
Gotcha. So there really is, I guess, a strategic point in which you should be thinking about investment, and it's not too early. It's not as soon as that opportunity comes by. It's at a strategic point.
I think ideally you want to get your customer base built up. You want to be able to demonstrate these are our users. So as far along the journey as you can, just bootstrapping it as anywhere you can so you can build it up. And then you're going in at the point when you're ready to scale, and you're ready to take that investment in at that point. So really narrow down your market to start with, really concentrate in a distinct area, knowing in the future you can scale and expand into other areas, but let's start off really distinct, grow your customer base and get ready.
Gotcha, right. So not go too broad, but really figure out who's the customer and what's your channel to that customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, cool. Okay. What are some pitfalls that you've seen that startups go through at the start?
I think planning, but I think that because I'm quite strategically focused, and working in local government and economic development agencies, if we want to bring forward programs, we go through regularly taking our concepts and turning them into an investment case, and we work through 5 stages of that. We'll work through what is our case for change, what's our problem really, what's the return on investment, who's our competition, who's our market, but who's the management. So we'll work through the management model. We have a really sort of defined process, and quite often I think the pitfalls I see are around that planning and thinking through actually what do I need to achieve in these next steps. What does success look like for me? How am I getting from point A to point B? How am I planning that in perhaps more of a methodical kind of way? Interesting,
because that really kind of that is the pitfall that I've always kind of seemed to fall into as well. When I've improved now.
Yeah.
When I first started doing this, I get an idea, I get really inspired, and I just jump right in.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't think about how is this going to sustain itself over time.
Yes.
Where's the balance, I guess, in that, right? Because you do want to plan for sure.
Yeah.
Right. But what I'm hearing, I guess, is that the priority, even for a big organization like ATEED, is defining the problem.
Absolutely.
And defining who that problem is for.
And absolutely, and we have to do that. We're investing ratepayers' money. We're investing public money.
Yeah.
So if we don't define that problem, really bring that case forward, that's a real big problem, and you've got accountability. And I think as a startup, having that mindset around accountability. Actually, this is your time. This is probably affecting your, it's an impact on your family. You're giving everything to this. So that accountability to really plan that through. I think the agile process works well, breaking it down into iterations, 2-week phases. What value will I have delivered in the next 2 weeks, so that you're tracking your progress and it doesn't seem like it's just one big road ahead. So really breaking that down, and I think the agile process works really well in the startup environment.
What I guess techniques from the startup world do you see yourself applying every day in your work life? Because you mentioned you do have this process, and some of that sounded to me a lot like the startup kind of stuff that you do.
Absolutely.
Like, do you do a bit of that, like lean canvassing and stuff like that?
We absolutely do, yep. So we'll go through the lean canvas model as part of the process before we even move into an investment case. That's really key to us. We need to define the key areas around what's the story, how are we telling this. And in fact, we'll still do that when we're working through projects. So when we talk about Grid Auckland, we'll talk about 4 stages of progression through the ecosystem lifestyle model. So you start on that really emergent stage of just bringing the program forward, getting it off the ground, filling the space with people. You then move into activation phase, which isn't to say you haven't been in activation, but it's just more the maturity. You're really now scaling and growing that ecosystem. You're connecting more on a national scale. You're lifting your head up. Then you're going into first stage, the integration, really looking internationally in focus, and then into maturity. So we'll bring through at each stage, we're looking almost like a startup in each stage, right? How are we moving forward? What are the key steps that we're delivering through? And we break our programs generally down into 3 key moves, 5 strategic areas, and then action plans that sit behind each of those stages. And each one in itself could be, a mini sort of piece of work and project. Who's the team? Who's got responsibilities? What's the budget behind it? It's that thinking all the time.
Interesting. You mentioned it. What was it called? The
ecosystem, yeah.
Ecosystem
style model.
Lifestyle
it's a mouthful,
model.
right?
Okay, all right, okay. So it's kind of like the lean canvas for ecosystem.
Yeah,
building.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of that one. And is that something that would benefit startups at an early stage, or would that be more around community building?
Yeah, absolutely around community building. I think startups went through the lean canvas model, putting your agile project management methodologies in place to keep moving you through are really key. Quite often there's this chasm, isn't there, from idea to jumping over to the next step. Really, you've got to keep planning yourself through that so that you don't end up in that disillusionment phase of, I just don't know where to go next. Actually, we all know preparation, planning, always the keys things, but the bits that get lost when you're in this world of where do I go next? It's
Gotcha.
Just take a step back again, lift up, look back over where you are, what you've achieved, where are you going next, what are your gaps that you need to work through.
From what I'm kind of gathering here is that there's an emphasis on infrastructure, and I know that's not really it's not really a word you might hear in startups, because when Facebook started, I know they had like a saying. It was like, move fast and break things.
Yes.
And then it became move fast on stable infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it sounds, correct me if I'm wrong, that's something that you're encouraging startups to think about from an earlier stage, that building that infrastructure to allow them to continue to experiment. Because obviously you may not get it right the first time, but if you build that infrastructure, you can keep iterating without having to spend too long getting back up again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key things you always talk about is fail fast, don't you? Keep moving, get your infrastructure in. Is it working? Is it not? It's not, right. Pivot, move on to the next thing. You don't want to be spending too long on one area and just getting hung up on it and stuck on it. Let's move forward, but really thinking about that stability element as soon as you can. Absolutely.
And I'm guessing with things that AT does, the Grid Auckland, that is that stability, that community, that connect those connections, that infrastructure. That is a layer of stability that a startup can rely on.
Absolutely. So we like to think of ourselves as those super connectors, but also the real joy from being here is just that community that's around you. One of the key things we'll do is we have a board where we list everybody in the space, all of their key skills, what can they do, so that if you're stuck in an area actually go and look at the board even. The team are around to help you, but you can even just walk up and look and say, all right, I'm really stuck in this area, who can I speak to? We do a lot of community lunches. We bring everybody together to share their learnings. Everybody's been through it or is going through it, so it's there. We really try to support around things like mental well-being. We find, for entrepreneurs, particularly male entrepreneurs as well, we have to keep people talking. We've got to support, in this space, because it does take such an impact and toll on people. We've even seen that this weekend. Gosh, we've seen people crying. We've seen people leave on the second day because they just can't cope with how things are moving already at that point. We see it all. And this has been a real enhanced and environment that we've been on over the weekend, but we see that generally through startups. So supporting as much as we can around emotional and mental well-being is really, really critical to the journey, as much as providing business support kind of growth skills. It's twofold.
No, I can fully relate to that. It's a crazy experience going into such a intense thing like a startup weekend. I've been through an accelerator myself, and then it's one of the most. It probably was the most intense thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And it was so important to be able to come out of it and have some like a soft landing.
Yeah.
Especially, I guess, in New Zealand, where it's not like startup culture is everywhere.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, it's everywhere. So going into an accelerator is just accelerating what's already happening.
Absolutely.
And then you come out of it and it's just the same. Whereas I guess in New Zealand it's a little bit different.
And what happens when you come out the accelerator, right? You almost fall off a cliff. You've been in this intensive program with everybody, and now you're out the other side. Where do you go next? Like, that takes some mental strength to go, you've been in this community and this safeness of going on, and all of a sudden you're on your own. We like to operate in more of a sustainable journey. We're not an accelerator. We are here to support businesses through more of a sustainable journey, and we do that through making our tech cafe, offering space free of charge. Come and get out of your home, come and start your journey in a safe environment, and then move through with us, and we'll support your journey along the way. We're not asking you to move out in 6 months, in 9 months. We are here to work you through the challenges that you're facing at every stage. And if we can't help you, we know somebody who will help you. And that's the benefit of working with a wide range of partners that we bring on board. We don't have the answers for everything. We have the supportive environment, we have the community. We'll bring on other people as and when we need.
No, definitely. And I can really speak to how beneficial that is, because the lucky thing with the accelerator that I was a part of, it did have a good community following afterwards, and we still keep in touch, which is really cool. But I can imagine I've heard stories of what life is like without that support, and it's tough. It's very tough. So.
And people here self-select. They know where they're at in their journey. So people naturally will move out of the Lysart building here, our startup hub, and they'll move on to the next phase and the next space that works for them. So people, when they come in, they know when it's right for them and what stage that they're at in their journey. We never say to anybody, do you think it's time to leave? They'll know, because the benefits and the value add that we bring, they've moved on beyond that, and they're ready to take the next step.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. So tell us, if I was a startup founder, how do I get in touch? How do I access Great Auckland? What's the first step?
Yeah, absolutely. Just come into the tech cafe. It's as easy as that. Come in.
That's right here.
Yeah, it's right here. Come in, see the team. Come and say hello. Tell us about you. Tell us about your aspirations, your journey. Where are you heading? And we'll hook you in straight away.
Cool.
We'll just welcome you into our family, our Great Auckland whānau. You'll be welcomed with open arms, and we'll support you through. You tell us as much or as little as you need, and we're here for you.
Right. So there's a network of mentors here that are, always present, that when you come in there.
Yes. Yeah. So we have community manager, program manager, startup hub manager, community coordinators. We're all here. But outside of that, you've also got ATEED. So you've got the experience of the Economic Development Agency. We're operating the startup space. So we're in this for altruistic reasons. We're not here from a commercial perspective. We're not here to just simply make money out of your journey. We actually want you to grow, and we want you to create jobs. What we can do is we can bring in our business advisors from ATEED. They can come in, they can assess where you are in your business, and they can offer you advice and guidance on the next steps. We link into Callahan Innovation. So if you're going through R&D, we can look at innovation vouchers, capability funding. We look at support with research as well. So we have those additional tools that we can bring in.
Very cool. So how do I get in touch with that because I didn't know about that with AT. That's really cool. So how do I access that?
So coming into Grid,
Yep.
come and talk to us. We'll point you in, and we have the AT business advisors coming and sitting in Grid. So they're actually here, sort of 1 or 2 days a week. They're in the space, and we'll tell you which days they're going to be here, and you can come and connect with them. We'll give them a message to let them know that you're here and you want to speak to them. But they're here. They're here on site. We have a lot of different organisations that come and base themselves here from Grid, whether it be Flying Kiwi Angels and help you get pitch ready and investor ready, to our innovation and business advisors from AT. A range of people that are already on site that you can access. Whether it be IP lawyers, the lot. They're all here.
Oh, fantastic! I might actually take you up on that and come in for that. So
we're a one-stop
really cool.
shop.
Yeah,
we try and make it easy.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out and search. We'll bring people to you.
Oh, definitely. Oh, cool. Well, thank you very much for your time, Marissa. What time is it now? It's 12:07, so it should be lunchtime now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're getting ready after lunch for that final 3 o'clock finish, I believe.
Yep.
And they should have their pictures ready then, all ready for the judges coming through.
Nice.
Really exciting.
Final leg, exciting.
I know.
Cool.
It's ramping up.
It is. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.